It's taking a lot longer than normal. Just a second. Come on. There we go. Okay. So I wanted to have this up so I can see the chat. There we go. I also have an article that I have linked to that I'm going to be reading. So I want to have this up here. All right. So we'll kind of wait just a minute and see if any join us. I know this is earlier. Hi, Joy. This is earlier than normal. I'm going to copy here. Sometimes that helps when I copy and share in my Facebook group. So we're going to do that. Share the link really quickly. Gently Led Sisters group. All right, here we go. We're going to post it in here. I hope you all are having a great Monday. It's been busy for me. I've been doing a bunch of stuff, but I got everything done I needed to so far. All right. Hey, Amber. All right. So we got some ladies joined. Okay. I know for some of you, this is nap time. Hi, Chinello. I know it is early tonight. We have a meeting that we are going to. So we are, I'm doing this now so that we can go to the meeting. But I wanted to do this topic. I came up with it. I was thinking about this all weekend, what I wanted to do. And I had read a blog post actually by Christy Lyle, I believe, that I really, really, really liked. And so that this kind of came off of that, kind of the thought of that. So I'm going to read that post as well. But this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because the enemy likes to whisper in our ears so many times, so many days, especially on the loud, crazy, chaotic days where nothing is going right. And I have put out 100 fires by noon and everything is bad and everyone is grumpy and I am being pulled in a million directions. I think to myself, is this worth it? And don't act like you've never had that go through your head before because life can be crazy and chaotic and stressful. Is it worth it to be a stay-at-home mom? Is it worth it to raise the next generation? Is it worth it to not have a career? Is it worth it to be poor? Is it worth it to put aside my dreams and desires and wants and wishes? Because let's face it, being a mom is the most sacrificial thing that you will ever do. You give up your body, you give up your time and your sleep and your health. And sometimes you are putting your own life on the line to bear children and birth them. But I'm here to tell you that it is worth it. It's worth all the things that you lose because we gain so much. Just the other day, I was pondering this and I stumbled across this very well-written article on the call to mothering, and I thought I would share it. And that's where this whole topic came from. Hi, Carrie. It's so nice to see you in the chat. We miss you. I want to meet that baby in person one of these days. You need to make the visit up here. Yeah, hi, Fiona. Yay, you get to listen because it is 9 o'clock Ireland time. So hi, Ashlyn. But let me read this article. It was really, really good. Sometimes I read these articles and I'm like, oh, she just put into words so well what I want to say. I wish I would have written it because I love to write. And sometimes I see them and I'm like, that is spot on. That is exactly what I'm trying to convey to women. So she called it the call to mothering. And I believe, I don't know the lady's name, but I think her Facebook page or group or something might be the call to mothering. But she wrote, I hear it from the mouths of mothers every day in stores, parks, at moms groups in church, sometimes even from my own. This kind of woe is me sentiment that undermines the joy of motherhood is peppered into our chats during play dates and fellowship times. And Satan just loves that. He has a special hatred for women because they are life givers. Mothering represents laying down your life for another, which represents the gospel. Any aversion to self-sacrifice will serve his purposes beautifully. He hates when you teach your kids about God and his word. So he makes motherhood something to be tolerated instead of savored, something to get through instead of a purposeful mission. He convinces us that Psalms 127, 3-5, which says that children are a blessing and a gift, is an outdated verse from a more primitive time. Because he knows that if we've raised them biblically, They will be launched from our homes as arrows aimed directly at the kingdom of darkness. He knows you play the most important role of anyone. The truth is that mothering is kingdom work and essential to the Great Commission. This is why it is so viciously attacked. When we understand this, then the daily drudgery of cleaning up messes, changing diapers, and breaking up fights turns into our worship. Instead of enduring and complaining about the children we've been entrusted to raise, we consider them a ministry opportunity. Because it is our calling to gently lead our children's hearts towards Jesus and all of the seemingly monotonous, irritating distractions throughout the day. And it has very little to do with convenience and everything to do with sacrifice. And then, yeah, and that was the end of it, I guess. Let me see. Let me make sure. Yep, that was the end of it. I thought there was more to it, but no, that was the end of it. And so she ends by saying, because it has very little to do with convenience and everything to do with sacrifice. And that's pretty much what it's like to be a mother. You're going to sacrifice so much. Like I said at the beginning, you're going to sacrifice your time and your, sometimes even just our mental, our mental capacity. We're going to sacrifice that. Sorry, I'm trying to turn on the fan. It's like 90 degrees in here. So I'm getting like hot and sweaty as I'm sitting here. But yeah, we're going to sacrifice so much as a mom. And if we have any aversion at all to sacrifice, Satan is going to know that. And it failed. I wasn't able to turn on the fan. All right. I know there's the gently led part. Hey, Jessica. I thought it was really cool that that part was in that article. Excuse me while I put on this fan so I don't die from heat stroke. And then I'm sticking in this outlet over here. Oh. I should have done this before I started, but that'll help me a little bit. Our air conditioner on the other side went out, so it's really, really, really hot in here now. So that'll definitely help. But I loved that article and I love the message of it. And I kind of wanted to go over just some of the things about, the call to mothering. First, I wanted to read an article that I found. I just went and I put in the benefits of being a stay-at-home mom. And then I also Googled the bad side effects of mothers in the workforce. So if you do that, it's kind of eye-opening to see what articles come up. But this is a paper about what research says about being a stay-at-home mom. It says, ask people what they think about stay-at-home moms and stay-at-home dads, and you'll likely get a variety of answers. Obviously, this show is aimed towards stay-at-home moms. And while I don't want to downplay, there's different circumstances, circumstances that are beyond our control that might happen, such as the death of a spouse, such as a negligent husband who leaves you and suddenly you have to work and so you can't stay at home. I'm not talking about those type of situations in the show today. That's a different topic for a different day. This is for the ones that have actively chosen to stay at home, and maybe which we'll go over later, they've had to sacrifice some things to make that happen. And because they've realized that the call to mothering is so important and it is the most important thing that they can do for their children. So some might think that they're lazy or not contributing much to society. Obviously, we know that's different. Others contend that stay-at-home parents are making the best decision of their lives and that they're making a noble, worthwhile sacrifice to stay home and nurture their kids day in and day out. That would be me. And then it kind of goes over some of the pros and cons of staying home. Some of the pros, there has been research done on these. It increases child school performance. Child has less stress and aggression, greater involvement in child's day-to-day life, feeling good about the choice to stay home. Then they said some of the cons is parents often desire to go back to work. Parents may have higher levels of sadness, depression, and anger. They have done research on that. And that comes down to, I think, moms that were pressured, that wanted a career and they were pressured to stay at home. They say that it led to them being depressed because they had to give up their career and, so on and so forth. Social isolation for the parent and loss of income. Loss of income is a definite con, and it is something that you're going to have to figure in and factor in when you decide to go home. But I'm here to say, as a mom of 8 that has never lived on a big salary, it can be done. And we don't have a lot as far as material possessions to show for it, but we live a comfortable life. We are not wanting for food. We are not wanting for a house. We are not wanting for some of the things that we get to do, such as, travel places, things like that, which is important to us. There are cheap ways to do some of those. So, and then it goes over all of the benefits. Kids benefit at, everything that I was talking about. It says more parents are wanting to stay home. So that's a good thing, I think. More people are becoming stay-at-home parents, and 60% of Americans believe that the choice is best for children. The number of stay-at-home parents jumped from a low of 23% in 1999, which I think is very telling because that was 23 years ago. And I am seeing now in the younger generation of 20-year-olds, I've really noticed that there is a lack of something, and I don't know what. There's a lack of something, and I think often that it can be traced back to absent parents as they were being raised. So, however, today's rates don't match those of the 1970s and earlier, when around 50% of women were stay-at-home parents. So it has gone up, but it's gone up to about 37% compared from a low of 23% in 1999. So less than a fourth of there was less than a fourth of stay-at-home moms in 1999. That's quite a big jump from that. So, and then it just kind of goes over the pros and cons of it. And it's very interesting if you want to research that. But you can research different ways that being a stay-at-home mom affects your kids, different things like that. So yeah, 23%, only 23% in 1999, which is crazy. And I know I have a lot of, and so now that generation has been raised, from 1999, 1998, 1997, that generation is out in their 20s. And we're seeing the effects of that, I believe. Hey, Sarah. Yes, I believe so, Carrie. It is a whole generation getting raised by public school and the TV. It for sure was. And we're definitely seeing that. We're seeing more and more moms that don't really have a clue, when it comes to raising kids. And that's why this channel is here. That's why this channel is here for the ones that are new to this, the ones that were never trained in this, the ones that were never taught to cook and clean and take care of a baby and don't have the first clue. So that's why this is here. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to get out there the importance of the call of mothering and how special your call is. I don't want anyone who watches this show to ever feel like a second-class citizen. Like I said, Satan lies in our ears all the time. Social media does, TV, Hollywood, they really downplay the role of a mom. They really push the career. They still do. I think stay-at-home moms are definitely getting a little more clout than we used to in the 80s and 90s. And maybe that's why in the 90s, there was such a low percentage of stay-at-home moms. I don't know. I think Hollywood did play a big part of that, really pushing the career woman mentality. But, in the Bible, we see that God has outlined some principles in the way the home is set up. Some people will have circumstances, like I said, beyond their control and will prohibit them from doing this. And that's okay. I'm not here to rag on you. I don't look down on you if your situation is different than mine. We all have choices in life. We all have circumstances beyond our control. So for me, this is just a personal thing that I decided from the day I got married, I was going to stay home and raise the kids if God was to bless us with them. And he did. He blessed us with 10 pregnancies thus far, 8 living children. So I feel like I've been very blessed in this area. But 1 Timothy 5:14 says, I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to the adversary to speak reproachfully. And, that verse was true 2,000 years ago, and that verse is still true today. God wants the younger women to get married and guide the house. God's way is always best, and it will produce a home that's run more effectively and children who are happier. So what does this look like for us? There are some things that will probably happen if you decide to embrace the call of mothering, really embrace it 100%. You're going to be there every day, in and out for your kids. You're going to be their sole, caretaker. And there will be some things that happen. So first of all, we have to look at some of the cons I mentioned. And one of them is going to be your income. you're going to have to learn how to budget. You're going to have to learn to live off of one income. And that's going to be tough because you're learning to live off one income in a two income society, especially this year with inflation. It's really hit us hard. Like I know it's hit everyone else hard. Groceries have jumped. Electricity has jumped. Our electric bill was just raised another $30 a month, $40 a month. And we're already paying an exorbitant amount for our budget billing because we live on all electric. So winter really gets us. Sometimes we'll have a $600, $700 heat bill. So we do budget billing throughout the year. Well, we were in the 300s. It's jumped over 400 now just for our electricity. So I understand. I am completely there with you. One thing that we do is we very, very rarely eat out anymore, especially with the whole family. When we take the whole family out to eat, we're looking at over $100. And that's a third of my grocery budget a week. So I'm thinking of all the food I can buy for $100. And I'm like, we can't do this. Even a McDonald's value meal is over $10 now. You can't get a value meal anywhere for under $10 because they raise minimum wage so high. So for us, eating out is not usually an option. It's more of a treat. If we get to eat out, that's very exciting in our home when we get to eat out all together. My husband and I do have weekly dates, but we don't go to fancy dining. We go to Maples here in town almost every week, and you can get a meal there for $8 a piece. So it's cheaper to eat there than fast food, which is crazy. So I do have that budget in my personal income. That's something that, since I teach lessons, it's one of the extras that we're able to do. Everything is 3 times higher. You're right. Like even a bag of potato chips used to be $1.16. I think now it's almost $2. It's crazy. So inflation is definitely hit, and it's hit hard. But if you're used to living below your means and not just scraping by, you're definitely going to do better than the common person. So, if couponing is your thing, go for it. I used to coupon until my time got too valuable, and now I'm not able to. I don't even think the coupons are as good as they used to when I did it back in it would have been when I was first married. 2001 I was married, so I probably did it 2005 to 2010, somewhere in there, and you could get really good deals. CVS with their extra care bucks, buy one get one free, so you could get both things free and then get extra care bucks to go towards your next visit. There are ways that you can do that. Thrifting, we almost always buy everything used. It's very, very rare that we buy new. There have been, I'm trying to even think of very few things that we have bought new. Appliances. We have bought appliances new, and we have gotten them with a warranty because I learned my lesson with a large family when it comes to dishwasher, dryer, and washing machine. I will be using the warranty at some time. I will. So I do save up, and we have paid, when we first moved in, we did not pay cash. We put the washer and dryer on a payment plan. But when my dryer went out, it lasted us. Our washer is still going. I don't even want to say anything about it. Our washer is still going, and we bought it new when we moved into the house in, I think 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago. So it's doing really well. It's used about 4 or 5 times a day. So it's a good washer. But when I bought my dryer, I paid cash for it. And when I bought my dishwasher, I paid cash for it. And so appliances, we will buy new because we use them so often. We probably almost need commercial grade with how large our family is, but we haven't gotten commercial. Hey, Nicole. And that's a fact, Jack. I like your name. Said I order off the kids menu. We do a lot of times too at Culver's. Anytime I go to Culver's, I get a kids meal. Kids burrito plate that comes with, that's really good. $5.26 is really good. Hey, Morgan, I barely ever see you on chat anymore. Maybe this time is like a good time for you ladies. Hey, Jessica. I don't know if I said hey to you yet. But yeah, always buy used with the exception of things that you're going to be using a lot. But actually, I will say Miss Heidi found my last stove for me that matches my kitchen perfectly. And what we pay, like 40? Did you pay 40 for it at garage sale? And it is just clipping along, doing a great job cooking our food. Now, our oven probably doesn't get used as much as like the washer machine or the dryer. So there are things you can buy used for some of those appliances. If you're able to find a good deal, I would go for the name brands for sure. My Maytags, what is my washer? A Whirlpool? A Whirlpool or a Maytag? They've held up tremendously. I love those brands. They've been really good for me. So, but let's talk about self-sacrifice. There will be a lot of self-sacrifice when you have embraced the call to mothering. And a call to mothering will make us more holy if we let God work through us. I've often thought that maybe this whole motherhood thing is a way to refine us as women. And it is a way to work on our bad habits. And it is a way to work on our weaknesses if we let God work on it, if we don't let the flesh take over. And I'm guilty of letting the flesh take over at times, as much as I try to keep my voice low. There are some times when I get frustrated and I, yell a little at the kids. I think we've all definitely been there. So, mothering definitely shows our weaknesses. It shows the areas that we need to work on. I never knew I had so many weaknesses until I became a mom, until I was low on sleep, until I didn't feel good, until my body was in demand from the time we conceive and we carry the baby for as long as we nurse. Our body is not our own. It is not our own anymore. I remember every time I get done nursing, it's a weird feeling, almost like my body is finally mine for a little bit, until I get pregnant again, until I'm nursing again. So it's a funny and weird feeling when I'm finally done nursing. And usually I nurse almost a year or so, or over a year. So by the time you're pregnant and done nursing one child, that's over 2 years of your life that you've given to sustain another human being. So what do you do to stop your flesh in the moment? I prepare for it ahead of time. It's really hard to stop yourself when you're in the moment of just feeling frustration and feeling your temper rise, when you feel the anger welling up. So make a plan beforehand. I would say one thing that I've tried to do is if anything happens in the house, and usually for me, recognize your triggers. One, I hate slam doors. My kids know this. So they know they're going to get it if they slam a door. I hate that sound. I don't know what it is. I don't like the anger behind it. So I don't like slam doors. I don't like it when the kids break something like just stupidly, or there's no reason behind it. They just break it to break it. That really frustrates me. I'm not talking about something that gets broken on genuinely by accident. I'm talking about they're being crazy. I told them to stop, or they're just being malicious and they try breaking something. Maybe they break something of their siblings. I don't like that. So when those things happen, sometimes I just know what I have to do in the moment is not react. I just need to walk away and go in my room for a little bit, calm myself down, pray, and then go deal with the child who did it. Because those are the times in my life when I've probably messed up the most. And so after so many times of messing up, you kind of have to come up with a plan. I don't want this to happen again. I'm the parent. I need to set the tone. I need to show how these things are handled. So then when you have a plan ahead of time, before you even get into the moment, I think that's the best way to do it. Yes, definitely, Chanel. Mothering shows me that I need to let go of perfection. Absolutely. I used to have incredibly high standards when it came to my house. And most of my church ladies that have seen my house know it's still clean. It's don't take a toothbrush to my floors because we live in the country and we're always tracking in and stuff, but it's clean. It's not messy, dirty, nasty, so it's clean, but it is definitely not white glove clean, which I would have loved when I was younger, having white glove clean. Kiss that baby for me, Carrie. He's a cutie. You need to post more pictures so we can see more of them. I love baby pictures. If any of you have baby pictures, please post them. So it teaches us skills in dealing with different situations. So I didn't even know that was the next point, Nicole, but that kind of segues everything I was talking about before, kind of segues with this. It teaches us how to deal with different situations that pop up when we get very angry, when we get very upset. Do I ever fake happiness for them? Yes, I do. I'm definitely not a fake person, but a lot rises and falls on how the mom is feeling. Now, the mom sets the tone in the home. If the mom is depressed and crying, the kids are going to pick up on that, and it's really going to bring them down. So there have been times where I'll just privately deal with my emotions and then, put a smile on, when I'm dealing with my kids. They can tell when you're upset. And just because I'm upset, I don't want it to upset my kids. And there have been a few times when they've seen me cry, mainly over loss of loved ones. And so then they know that, okay, this is serious. If mom's crying, this is really, really serious. But I wouldn't say I don't fake happiness, but I do try to be pleasant even when, and my kids can tell when I'm in a bad mood. I'm talking about if I'm depressed or sad, I will try to be pleasant around the kids because I don't want my attitude to affect them and how they feel. So, but it shows us our need for a savior every day. As moms, there's going to be times when, and I feel like since I've become a mom, I pray more than ever, and sometimes I'll just get in the car if I have the rare opportunity to drive to town by myself, and I'll just pray the whole way. It's quiet, it's peaceful, nothing's going on. And I'll use that time to pray and call out to the Lord and tell him that I need him. And please, guide me so I don't give into the flesh, and guide me so I can put a hand over my mouth when my temper comes out because the kids did this again, even though I've told them 50 million times not to do that, So it definitely shows me that I need the Savior, and I can't walk in the Spirit on my own. I have to have the Lord's help to walk in the Spirit, and walking in the Spirit is a choice that we make every day. And so calling out to the Lord for help in that area shows me my need for the Savior. What do we do if a past sin keeps getting brought up? How can we be happy around the kids when the other spouse won't forgive? That's really tough because you can't force someone else to forgive. Your spouse is just going to have to forgive. And you can respectfully and quiet, please just tell him, this really, really bothers me. It really makes me feel awful. I've confessed this to you. I don't know what else I can do other than saying I'm sorry. I'm trying to work on it or whatever. And please don't bring it up around the kids. I show you respect in this area. Could you please show me respect in this area? And then, it's really up to him. Maybe just don't react. If he brings it up, just try to change the subject. Try to talk about something else. Just keep your face neutral. And he might be doing it to get a reaction out of you. I don't know. I don't know your situation. So I'm sorry about that. I don't have a spouse that would really do that. So I don't know quite the exact piece of advice to give in that. If anyone has dealt with that in the chat, please jump in and, help out if you've dealt with that in the past. So, but our mental state when it comes to mothering. Yes, exactly, Carrie. And yeah, that's a great verse. And that's totally on the husbands. Husbands, love your wives and be not bitter against them. And my husband talked about this last week when we had our joint discussion. He really went after the guys when it came to this area. So I would recommend that to watch if he would watch that. I don't know. I feel like sometimes when us as wives suggest something that we think is going to nail our husbands to the wall, it's not good when it's coming from us. So pray about it. I know definitely praying about prayer works. Prayer works. God can change your husband's heart for sure. So, but just remember when it comes to our mental state that contentment is a choice. And I've said this often. I have said it over and over and over again. You decide if you're going to be content. You decide to deal with what life has thrown at you. And all of us in 2022 love to be a victim. We do. We all think that our circumstance is unique and no one else has ever dealt with this. No one else has ever had, financial problems. None of us have ever driven a car as junky as ours. And none of us have ever dealt with a kid who does this or does that. None of us have ever dealt with this many kids in this amount of time. There's always things that we think is unique to us. And everyone, while we do have a unique story, there are things that have happened in our life that have happened in thousands and millions of other people's lives. So we choose if we're going to be content. We choose how we're going to react to the situation. Our kids can tell if we're happy or not, which I pretty much already covered when I was talking about, when I was talking to Nicole, and then just acceptance over the season that we're in. It's easy for me to talk about just take it one day at a time. It's so quick. My oldest is almost 21 and it flew by, and it did. I have a few adults now, and I have a couple teenagers now, and my youngest is almost 2. So it's easy for me to say that, but I was in the same season you were at one point too. And I grew to accept it. I grew to accept it. I grew to the point where I didn't want to be an unhappy mom, and I didn't want to be just depressed all the time. And I'm not saying I was depressed all the time, but I probably didn't handle things the greatest as a young mom. And I wish I would have had an older mom that kind of just encouraged me to look outside of my world and see that I wasn't alone. You know, lots of moms had gone on like this before me, and they get through it. You're going to survive. You're going to make it through. You just take it one day at a time. No one ever really told me, just take it one day at a time. When I got that in my mind, that really changed everything for me. Okay, I'm going to enjoy this day with my kids. They're not going to be this age ever again. Tomorrow, they're going to be older. So I'm going to enjoy this day. And then realize that some days you're just going to have bad days, and that's okay. You know, it's okay to have a bad day. I feel like for some people, their whole world just falls apart if they have an atrocious day and they have to let everyone know about it. And please pray for me. I'm about to go crazy. And everything's an open book, right? On Facebook, everything's an open book. Well, it's okay to have bad days and just keep it to yourself. It's okay for your kids to be awful, and you don't have to tell everyone about it. It's going to happen. You know, it's going to happen. Realize that every home's different and no one's will be the same. So my house is going to look different than your house. My schedule is going to look different than your house, than your schedule. The things I'm able to do in life are going to look different than yours because we're in different seasons. There's older moms than me that maybe say their husband is an evangelist and he travels places to preach. They get to go with him on those trips. Well, most of the time when my husband goes to preach out, I don't get to go with him. He'll take a couple kids, but I don't normally get to go with him. And it's just not my season in life right now. I need to be with the babies. I need to be homeschooling. I need to be teaching piano lessons because those are my commitments right now. So every home is going to be different. And I don't get envious of the moms that are older than me and maybe they're able to leave for a few days. I just accept it. I know someday I'm going to be in that, and I'm probably going to miss being able to stay home with my babies. So I think when you come to a place of acceptance, that really, really helps. Yes, exactly, Chanello. And I was going to say something. Yes, exactly, Sarah. She said, the only way past the hard is just going through it. And we're all going to have hards in our life. We're all going to have different situations. I've had kids with health problems that we've had to figure out. I've had a couple of them have had surgeries we've had to go through. And at those times in life, I just put everything else on the back burner and I focused on that child. And that's what they needed at that time. And because I was a full-time stay-at-home mom, I was able to do that. Think of the moms that are tied down to work that aren't able to take off if their kid is really sick. Or I remember as a teenager being hired by she was very smart. She was from Italy and she was some nuclear scientist or something. And her kids got chickenpox. And I was homeschooled, so I babysat out. That was my only source of income as a teenager. And she hired me for 2 weeks when the first one got the chickenpox, and then the next one got the chickenpox for 2 weeks. So for a full month, they paid me quite well to just babysit their kids, nurse them through this illness. So think of the advantage we have. And I kind of felt bad for them because they were miserable and they wanted their mom, but she was working. She's this nuclear scientist. So you know, think of the advantage that we do have. We are able to cuddle our kids and we are able to help our kids through those sicknesses and illnesses and things. We don't have to take time off work, and we're very, very blessed. So very, very blessed. But remember your priorities. And this is one thing I almost did an entire show on, and I still might in the future, but I was thinking about how as moms, we really need to emphasize in our homes, and, you know, dads can do this too, the spiritual over the physical. So what do I mean when I say the spiritual over the physical? Well, you know, keep them fed and clothed. That would be the physical. But mothering is more than just clothing them. It's about having their heart. It's about instilling your principles in them, teaching them why we do the things that we do. And that is the most important thing to me, even more than, you know, making sure their hair is all done cute, which I'm still pretty picky about that, like, especially when we go out or we go to church, but more than making sure their, you know, shoes are on the right feet, more than making sure they're up to date on all their clothes. More importantly than that is the spiritual. So for us, one of the biggest spiritual things in our home is church, obviously. all else in our life revolves around church. Church does not revolve around our life. So basically what I'm saying is if my kids are not puking or running a high fever, we are at church. There's no exceptions. There's never been an exception in our home. I don't make church revolve around my life and what's going on in my life at that time. Whether that's, I don't know, circumstances in my home, whether that's, I don't know, different phases of my kids' lives. I don't let that determine if we're going to church or not. We go to church no matter what's going on. And I take all that stuff with me to church. My kids take naps here a lot. I try to plan on Wednesdays to give them a later nap because I know they're going to be staying up later that night. So I've never rotated church around my kids' sleeping cycles. I've never rotated church activities around my kids' sleeping cycles because church is the most important thing in our home. And I'm glad now because I'm seeing the fruit of that. As my kids get older, I'm seeing how much they love church and how they would just hate to be missing church. And they love being in the house of God. They love the people of God. They love ministry here. They love music. They love being involved. They love going soul winning. And I love that. So as your kids get older, you're going to see, and that started when they were little, you're not going to get much out of church when you got babies. To be honest, you're not, but you're establishing patterns and you're establishing precedent in your home that church is important to us and we're there all the time. Whatever's going on there, we're there. So that's super, super, super important. Potty training. Yeah, I never stayed home for potty training, but that's your home and that's your choice. Okay. Like I said, I'm sharing what I did. I made things work. So I brought Nicole. I was remembering this. I remembered when you were potty training the twins. I was so proud of you because you literally made them sit on the potty chair in nursery. Do you remember that? You were I think you had just moved here. So it was yes, we get to go to this awesome church and you didn't want to miss it all. So even though you stayed in the nursery, you made them sit on the potty chair in the nursery and you got it done. They got trained eventually. So yeah, they got it. But yeah, I've potty trained kids in church. I brought the potty chair in the van to church. I lay them down for naps at church. I just revolve it around that. I'm not saying if you stay home, you're a horrible person. I'm telling you what we did. I'm telling you, we set the precedent for these things and it's paying off now. So, do I think if you miss a Wednesday night service, your kid's going to grow up to be a derelict? No, I don't think that at all. I don't, especially when they're so young, but I guess when people, I've seen it, when people start missing for little things here and there, it kind of becomes a habit. So, I missed because of this, I had a backache or I had a headache or whatever. And so the next time it's easier to do. And then the next time it's easier to do. So everything gets easier the longer we do it. And that's kind of what I've seen. So for me, it's just a non-issue. I'm not going to miss for little things. I'm not going to miss for naps or, to get them to bed early or whatever. I'm just not going to do it. That's just a line in my house. So you might have a different line and that's fine. I'm not trying to browbeat anyone that's differently than me when it comes to this. But, so yes. So school, let's talk about school with emphasizing the spiritual over the physical. So when it comes to school, my goal in homeschooling and embracing the call to motherhood is to raise decent kids and to raise kids with godly principles. My goal is not to raise a nuclear scientist, and my goal is not to raise the next president. So for me, I'm going to emphasize in their schoolwork the spiritual over the memorizing the facts. And, for me, their Bible verses in their school is really important. I get really upset when they don't know their Bible verse for their test. And ACE, you're supposed to be learning a verse throughout. And I don't like it when they miss their verse. So just this last week, I had a couple that did. And I told them, I said, you're going to know your verse for your next test. I want you to know your verse. That's super, super important. So I try to emphasize the character of the thing rather than the brains. Teach them how to treat others with compassion and kindness. And then just realizing how important this calling is. The fact of the matter is the devil wants Christian homes to fail. He really does. when Christian homes fail, especially, and I don't want to say like, pastors' families have a bigger target on their back, but sometimes they do, because when a pastor or his family falls, it affects the entire church. And it kind of, it discourages a lot of other Christians. So yeah, that's true, Julia. Julia said, let's be honest. We raise our kids right. There's no way they get elected to be president anyways. Yeah, I don't think my kids would be. Chanela said, I have to admit, I've taken puking children to church and somehow the puking stopped by the time we got to church. You're braver than I. I would feel so bad if I brought a puking kid and they just puked all over everything. So puking is that's my line. That's my line in my house. When someone's puking, we don't go. I don't want to spread the flu, and I don't want them puking on people and making everyone else puke and, all that. So, but we all have different lines, and that's totally fine. Puking is my line. Hi, Julia. She's trying to sneak a nap in during Emma's nap and failed. Yeah, I know how that goes. So yeah, the devil does want Christian homes to fail, and he will stop at nothing. A lot of times I've often heard too that he targets the firstborn, because when he gets the firstborn to walk away from everything he was taught, that will influence the younger kids as well. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I kind of have seen it in different homes and stuff growing up. I've seen that. Your kids won't be as effective as Christians if he causes the home to fail, because like I talked about in that article, we are raising up a generation of arrows. The Bible talks about arrows in the hand of a mighty man. So we are raising up children to be launched out to fight the kingdom of darkness. The devil doesn't want another effective soul winner. The devil doesn't want another effective Christian that will say no to sin. The devil wants us involved in sin. The devil wants us to give into our flesh. The devil wants to ruin us. And the reason the devil wants us involved in sin, which my husband's sermon last night was incredibly good, talking about keeping sin out of the church. If you want to listen to that, he was talking about how when you go to a church, you don't want to just avoid the sins, the big sins that will get you kicked out. We want a church here where people are continually striving to be better and striving to cut out all the sin in their life, striving to not even do the little sins, striving to be holy like God is holy. And that our whole goal and our whole life motto should be to bring honor and glory to God. So in every area of our life, we want to do that, whether that is avoiding the big sins that are mentioned, I think in 1 Corinthians 5, or whether that is avoiding the little sins. The Bible talks about teaching the least commandments. Okay. So obviously there's great commandments and there's least commandments. We want to teach all of it. The whole law of God is good, and we want to teach all of it. And we want to encourage people to get victory over sin, whether that's a little sin, like losing your temper, which I'm guilty of, whether that's a big sin, like the Bible mentions. And he was just talking about getting around people that are going to encourage you to get better, not encourage you to maybe go down to their level when it comes to some area that you're also weak in. So, and I have noticed that some people who are weak in an area, if they're also friends with someone who's in that weak in the area, both of them don't get better. They usually get weaker. So you want to be around, and that's part of why we come to church, why church is so important, because we're encouraging and provoking one another to good works. We can encourage one another, you're doing great, potty training, whatever. You're doing great raising those kids. I've seen a really big improvement in their attitude, and it is kind of nice to see the improvement through the years. I mean, anyone who listens and comes to my church, they can see the improvement from terrible toddler to, well-behaved 3 or 4-year-old. And there will be times, obviously, where your kid's going to mess up, and none of us are here judging each other. But it's really awesome with your friends to see, your friends working on something in one of their kids' lives, and you see the improvement. And that's an encouragement to you to keep going and, keep training your kids, because someday, you'll have an Abby and someday you'll have a Chloe, and someday you'll have teenagers that, love the things of the Lord and whatever. So it's really encouraging to be around other moms because of that. So Kaylin said, Yeah, I was just telling myself this. I am a Christian and I believe and love God, but you can't tell because I act just like everyone else. I'm sorry, Kaylin. I'm hoping this show can be an encouragement to help you maybe step out of your comfort zone of being like worldly people and try to be more godly. Try to take a stand when it comes to maybe the way you act or talk or look or whatever. Um, letting letting your light shine so that people know that you're a Christian. So I hope that this show can be an encouragement for that. Hey, Olivia. And then Sarah said, being around the more experienced moms has helped me to love my kids more. And I love that you said that, because that really goes with the verse where it talks about the older women may teach the younger women. And part of that was loving your children. And it can be a hard time because we're so tired and we're so exhausted. And just today, Kelly threw a huge fit when it came to taking a nap, and she's been doing so well lately with the fits, not really having any fits. But today is Monday. Mondays are always harder and Thursdays are always harder for us because of church, and I've just accepted that. Like I said, we're going no matter what. So I've just accepted that Mondays are going to be hard and Thursdays are going to be hard, and there's going to be a little more correction that's needed. Well, Abby tried laying her down for a nap and she was throwing a royal fit. She sounded like a wildcat in there. So I went in there and I decided to show a little bit of grace because it's Monday. And I just picked her up and I rocked her to sleep, because I was thinking, as I was rocking her and holding her, I'm not going to have this forever. I can't rock my 17-year-old to sleep anymore. I can't rock my 15-year-old to sleep anymore. I don't know if I'm going to have any more kids. So I'm not going to have this time right here, right now, ever again. So I rocked her to sleep. And then when she was kind of half asleep, half awake, I laid her down and she said, "Mommy, please don't leave me." And I said, "No, I'll stay right here for a little bit longer." And she curled right up next to me. And it was super sweet. So it's moments like that where, as a mom, this is my place. This is the right thing. This is what I need to be doing. She needed a little bit more love today. She's worn out from being at church all day on Sunday, and having a late night. And I'm tired on Mondays. So I know she's probably tired on Mondays. So sometimes just show them a little grace and just realize that you're not going to ever have that moment back in time, and just cherish those snuggles. It's very rare that Kelly falls asleep on me anymore. Very rare. I used to have to rock her to sleep all the time when she was a baby. And then we finally got her broken of that. So, it's very rare. Sometimes she'll fall asleep on me in church, but that's very rare. So I don't know how many more times she's going to fall asleep on me. So I decided to just take some time out of my day today, put some things on the back burner while I focused on her. Yes, I agree, Julia. And that's why this show is so important, because a lot of you have been raised in a home that didn't emphasize any of this. They didn't teach any of this. Julia said it's so hard to make these changes when you weren't raised in it, but surround yourself with like-minded Christians and it gets easier with support. It really does. And it gets easier with encouragement. You're doing a great job, Julia. I've really seen a difference in Zeke, and Emma's really blossoming and starting to interact with people. And, it's nice to have that support, even when you're depressed, you're not feeling it, but you're around smiling people. That can't help but lift your spirits, when you're around that. So Kaylin said, "I love watching this show and I appreciate having this good advice. I don't have any godly friends and I feel like I can't truly love God because I won't have anyone to hang out with." And Sarah, I agreed. She said, "I feel God brings you the people you need when you need them." And I do think that maybe sometimes God puts a choice in our path. Okay. So, we have, if we're saved, we have the Holy Spirit living within us, and we try and strive to be spirit led is what we're talking about. What we're talking about when we're talking about spirit led is we listen to the nudging of the Holy Spirit. So the Holy Spirit has pricked your heart, I can see, by telling you, you need to be a little more godly. You need to let your friends know that you're a Christian. You need to act like a Christian. You're not going to be a good testimony if you're doing this and that and this. And I don't know exactly what's even going on, but I can tell that the Holy Spirit has convicted you. And maybe he's giving you a choice. How serious are you about following the least commandments? Do you love me? How serious are you about listening to my voice? And then oftentimes I found in my own life, I can only speak for my own life, when I give it all up to God and I surrender, he sends me so much more than I was even expecting. He fills those voids. He sends along the good friends, and we kind of go through cycles with friends. Sometimes we need different friends in our life for different seasons of our life. And then we grow apart and we move on. But then God replaces with another great friend for exactly what we need in that season of our life. So I've definitely seen that happen in my own life, where I just thought it would be so hard to give this up. And I just fought it and fought it and fought it. And then when I did give it up, God just blessed in so many different ways and better ways than I could have even imagined. So I love the song What Faith Does, because it talks about faith sees the impossible, believes the incredible, no matter what does. And it just talks about how good faith is and how it builds our faith is. How it builds our faith when we do things the way that we're supposed to do things. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, there. Thought I messed up the microphone. So you are the best mom for your kids. You are. No one else is better than you. I remember I was going through a very low period after Hannah was born, and it was just the hormones crashing and me having problems nursing her and the devil whispering in my ear. I know it was. And I just remember thinking, Hannah needs a better mom than me. I can't even figure out how to nurse her. She needs a better mom than me. And now I look back and I'm like, that was so foolish, because I'm the best mom for my kids. God gave you those kids for a reason. He allowed you to get pregnant and birth them and raise them. You are the best mom for your kids. You know your kids better than anyone else. You're going to fail as a mom. You're going to fail. Just admit it and do better. Determine, I'm going to do better. When you realize how important this calling is, it makes the mundane tasks of life just a little more enjoyable. When you realize I'm changing this diaper for the Lord, it makes it not so bad. I'm washing, this pee out of the carpet again when you're potty training for the 50th time. I'm washing it out for the Lord. I'm washing these dishes for the Lord. I'm cooking this meal for the Lord. When you realize that this mothering thing is not just a title, even anyone can be a mom. I do. When I think of mothering, I think of the whole package, the nurturing part and the compassionate part and the caring part and the instilling principles in our kids part and the being there for them part. And, all of that. That's what I think of when I think of mothering. I'm still trying to mother my son, who's not even been here for a month, but I haven't missed a day of talking to him because he's important to me. I didn't invest almost 21 years in his life just for me to just like, okay, he's gone. Yay. Wash my hands. Done. No. And I've known some moms that do that, sadly. So realize our most important goal is to honor and glorify God in our lives. And what better way than doing what he commanded and raising the next generation for him? It talks about in Proverbs 31, her children rising up and calling her blessed. And to me, I honestly can't think of anything more in my life that I would love than for my children to rise up and call me blessed someday. Your kids know the real you. They know all your weaknesses. They know all your strengths. They know everything that those outside the home maybe don't see. You don't see my whole life. People on social media put forth their best foot. They want people to see what they want them to see. They don't show them the nitty-gritty details. So your kids see it. And for them to someday rise up and call you blessed would be a great thing, a great compliment, and a great testament to the way that you did things. So I'm sorry, Kaylin. And she said, I just get so scared of being alone because I already struggle mentally and feel like I'm alone. And if I lost them, then I'm the problem and that this is dumb. I hate it. I really do. I'll pray. I just need to change my mindset. Now, not only that, but I do think prepare maybe for losing those friends by, and I know I've said this before, but by trying to get in a good church, surround yourself with Christian people that are going to push you forward in your walk with God and not pull you back. Surround yourself with people that have higher standards than yours. Surround yourself with people that are godlier than you are. Surround yourself with people that are more holy. I don't understand this concept of wanting to bring everyone down to our level. I want to be around people that are going to encourage me to be a better Christian and a better mom. And I want to be around people that are going to be like, oh, Cassandra, that probably, maybe you shouldn't have said it that way. Keep me in check. I want to be around people that are going to better me, not people that are going to try to get me to go against those least commandments or try to get me to accept the mindset of the world or, worldliness or whatever. So I agree, Janella. She said, mothering can be very stressful. Reminding myself that I'm doing this for the Lord puts it in perspective and makes it worth it. I absolutely 100% agree. And Jen, my last point is, and I'm going to wrap it up, accept that there will be bad days and just roll with it. Maybe today was a bad day for you. It's okay to have a bad day. It doesn't make it a bad life though. And like Chanello said, I want to read this thing that she said, which I might have already, but don't let a bad moment turn to a bad day. Don't let a bad day turn to a bad week. And don't let a bad week turn to a bad month. And you can go on and on. Don't let a bad month turn into a bad year. Don't let a bad year turn into your whole life. There's so many people that just get stuck in the rut of discontentment and apathy and depression because they've decided that they have a bad life. And it is all about mindset. But if you feel yourself getting that way, maybe, surround yourself with other moms that are going to encourage you in your walk with the Lord and not discourage you. Right, Carrie, and I agree. She said, my unsaved friends all disappeared, but now that I have Christian friends, I'm seeing those unsaved friends weren't even good friends. And they're normally not, especially if they're just, my husband was talking about in a sermon last night, why is it when people smoke, they usually do it with a friend? Or why is it when they drink, they usually do it with a friend? It's because misery loves company, right? We all want to get someone to sink down to our level and do stuff with us because deep down, it's not right. Deep down, it's wrong. So Sarah said, Aaron and I both often mention how blessed we were to be raised by our individual parents. They built the best adults they could out of us. And that gives me the oomph to do the same with our kids. No, that's great. And it's great when you have those blessings in your life of good parents where you can take the experience of being raised by them. And then, how to train your kids, what to happen when your kid has a temper tantrum, and how to, this is the way I need to do this. And this is the way I need to do this. And then you can also take any bad experiences that happened, from your upbringing and then decide not to do it that way. Well, this didn't have the greatest outcome. Let's do it this way. And then also just follow the godly advice and the pattern of people who have raised good kids. What did they do to raise the good kids? What did they make mistakes? Where were their mistakes that they made? What do they say? Every parent's going to tell you, I messed up here. I messed up here. And I messed up in some areas too, raising my kids. So hopefully people can learn from my mistakes and they can learn from the good that's happened, because where I did make mistakes, there are good things I did too, so learn from both the good and the bad. Exactly, Kaylin. She said, if I have a friend doing something bad with me, then I'm not the only one getting in trouble. And so often, even with adult Christians, I think we have that mindset. Well, is God going to punish both of us if we're both doing it? So watch my husband's sermon last night for reference. It was a really good sermon about keeping sin out of the church. So let's see. What did Jessica say? I think I missed it. Oh, yeah, I did miss it. Jessica said, I was telling my kids one day, no one is perfect. Did you know mom and dad aren't perfect? My oldest says, oh, I know you're not perfect. Oh, the honesty of children. Yes, they do know. My kids, my older teenage kids especially, they make fun of me all the time. I'm telling you. Jason was making fun of the way I take pictures yesterday at church. He came over and I do this thing where I tilt the camera. It's because you can get more in the picture when you tilt the camera. And he's like, oh, mom's going to post these baby showers, because we had baby showers yesterday. Baby shower pictures are online. And then he takes the phone and he's like doing this, like exaggerating it. And him and Abby are just like laughing about it. So yeah, they keep you humble. Kids definitely keep you humble. And he was making fun of me. Teenagers are going to make fun of you too, but I guess you got to take it in good fun, because they do know you. They do know that you take tilted pictures. So yeah, the mom guilt thing, Nicole, we have definitely gone over in the past. That probably almost needs a whole show devoted to it. The only way of getting mom guilt rid of it is doing the most important things to you. Like today, for me, I had a super busy day, so I knew I had to get lesson plans done. I knew I had to get some parts of my coop finished and all up, like the bedding down and rearranged the way I wanted. I knew I had to do the outline for this. I knew I had to do this. And I knew I had to get my kids through school. I got all of those things done so that I can go to bed tonight knowing I did the most high priority things to me. Some of the lower priority things, just don't worry about. So focus on the things that you can get done, do those things, and that'll definitely help with the mom guilt. It has with me anyways. So there are a lot of other things that you can do to help with that, but we'll definitely go over that at a further date. So I know that Julia, they were just talking about that with Kelly, how she says everything that comes to her mind, and she does. She said toddlers are the worst because, you know, they're honesty with no filter. They absolutely are, for sure. So anyways, I hope you ladies have a great week. I'm going to wrap it up now. We had a good crowd. We actually had a little bit more than we normally do at 7. So I'm wondering if this is a good time for all the moms that watch, but thanks for joining, and we will see you ladies next week.